Hello, you're watching another installment of Force 13 Live, looking down Typhoon Alley once again tonight, or today as it is local time, in East Asia. We're watching Tropical Storm Francisco, Typhoon Lekima, which, looking at that imagery, is potentially rapidly intensifying, and Tropical Storm Krosa, which is also intensifying and is humongous. My name is Nathan Foy, and in the studio, well, I am in the studio, but joining me across the globe tonight we have several other people who we can talk to. We are joined by, in this moment in time, David, Tim, Max, and Ryan. Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
We have gone live somewhat impromptu. We will continue this for some time. We're just trying to fit round our very busy schedules from across the team this week. So we're going to put in at least a good hour of coverage here and maybe a little more. And what we might do after we finish talking tonight is leave our automated service running so that the viewers can check in at any time to see what is going on, even if we're not actually on the air. So that's what we've done for a few years, and it's proven to be quite useful. If you want to take part in our discussion tonight, you can send in a message at any time through the chat section on YouTube or on Facebook, because I believe we're streaming on Facebook as well tonight, and we'll get to any comments. All right, so whilst we're still getting completely configured here, not too much to do at my end, who shall we talk to first? Anyone got a particular comment right now they'd like to make on any of those storms? And I'll just cut to them. All right, let's talk to Max first. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. What are your thoughts on the storms right now? Any in particular that are catching your eye? Because
JTWC is probably going a bit low with Akima.
Not as low as they were before, though. They upgraded it to 80 miles per hour.
And I think it could be a little bit stronger than that even.
I don't know, for me, they still have it at 65 now.
Has there been... Okay, Ryan, have you got the latest information on the ATCF right now?
Yeah, I can read these out real quick. So, it looks like they upped Krosa to 70 miles per hour, and Lekima is now at 80 miles per hour. That's 70 knots. Francisco is down to 40 miles per hour.
Yes, that is pretty much what we were expecting, because Francisco obviously dying out. It's the intensity that we went with at the start at our tropical weather bulletin not so long ago. But what is, I guess, the main feature tonight is the fact that Lekima is it rapidly intensifying, guys? Looks like it to me. The eye is starting to come out. Its core there looking pretty good. Compared to this time yesterday, yeah. You can certainly see how it has been developing there. It's got a Philippine name, by the way. The Philippine name is Hannah. And it will end up going towards Taiwan.
We might be starting to see the development on an eye in those last frames.
The eye, yes, definitely starting to come out in those later frames there, indeed. And what some people have already noted so far is that it is a stage 8 on the CDPS scale. So it has a huge potential for serious impacts when it does get to Taiwan or indeed to the southern Japanese islands. Tim, have you got any information on that and the other Storm Krosa which you've been looking into?
Yes, I've been keeping an eye on both of them. I actually had our own Devin Williams recheck my math, as I know some of the viewers have noted that not only is Lekima, but Krosa now is on a projected stage 8 for the CDPS for a potential landfall on the Ogasawara Islands. I was actually looking at the HWRF on Lekima, and compared to where we were at yesterday, we're looking at a different nature of storm than what we were looking at yesterday.
Good Lord, look at these two. You thought Lekima was quite large, looking at that. I'm just speaking to no one in particular there, but look at Krosa. It is gigantic, gargantuan. Its cloud coverage extends almost from Iwo Jima all the way to Yap on the southern side. And the cloud coverage is blanketing pretty much just about the whole of the Mariana Islands north to south. Right now, the only warnings from any of these storms that are in effect is a gale warning for Okinawa, Miyako and the Ayama Islands. Those are the southernmost Ryukyu Islands of Japan. There's nothing in Taiwan yet as far as I can see, at least not on land. There were some heavy rain warnings, but the thing is, there aren't any rain warnings at the moment as we pan up towards the northwest because, as you can see, it is on very much the dry side of Lekima's influence. You can also just about make out on the bottom left-hand side there another swirl. That is 96W, another invest. And that one could, well, I doubt that will actually develop, but it is in existence, and who knows, it might have a bearing on Lekima in some small way.
And what I've noticed is that the models have more intense with both these storms since yesterday, with in particular the HWRF now putting Lekima well into the 920s as it crosses the Ryukyu Islands.
920s. Wow. Well, I'm sure we'll look at models in the not too distant future. At the moment, we're looking at radar imagery from Taiwan showing one or two little clouds that are off the coast there.
Yeah, this is the radar out of Taiwan. You can see where some of the rain is going through the Miyako Islands over here. This is still some of the edge of Lekima. Some of these bands last night when we were live were actually going through Yilan County up here in the northeastern part of Taiwan. And looking at the models that Max was just alluding to, the HWRF does have Lekima dropping to 927 now. And possibly making landfall at about 929 millibars. The GFS has it right about 943, but it's interesting to note the GFS, where it was having it as a landfall in northern Taiwan, looks like it has it veering away from Taiwan and going towards the Ryukyu Islands. So that's a definite change of pace for the GFS compared to last night.
Another thing about the HWRF that I'd like to mention is that it does seem to eventually take the storm pretty much right through Shanghai.
Yes, really? That's interesting.
Yes.
Now, Shanghai has always been with a potential for being in the way of this storm. But what we were looking at initially was the possibility that it would swipe Taiwan, then move onto the coast of China, and then abruptly, as it was making landfall in China, move towards the north and then parallel the coast all the way up, or as quite far up the coast. Has anyone got, in fact, we'll have it on our automated page somewhere, the latest model spread on what they're all saying at the moment?
I am just about to pull it. Just about to pull it up here.
We do have one of our own here. I'm sure you'll have a better one, but you can see what they're saying there. They do take it much closer to Shanghai, so that is rather interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. What I'm looking here on my spread here. Yeah, what I'm looking here is that, yeah, most of them are really just sort of scraping the northern tip of Taiwan and some of those southern Ryukyu Islands, and then heading up towards Shanghai.
There again, you can see the two storms on that small panel at the bottom right-hand side. There's another look at Francisco, which, you know, there isn't too much to say on that one at the moment. But Ryan, do you have any thoughts on Lekima's current structure? Looking at satellite imagery, the eye appears to be getting deeper.
Yeah, I have been noticing. You can start to really see an eye starting to develop with Lekima here. I guess I'll try to have a better look at it, but that's at least what it's looking like at the moment. So
Looking
yeah, it's
convincing to me.
starting to get its act together. Yeah, it is looking really convincing.
And we're just trying to get some more things up on the screen shortly here. In the meantime, I think Tim has some imagery.
Yes, I do. This is a rapid scan off of Himawari 8 showing the structure of Lekima, and it does look like about an hour ago that the eyewall structure was looking really good. It does look like it's fading a little bit on the western side in the last 20 minutes or so, but
Only 20 minutes though.
Yeah, I'm still kind of in agreement with what a few of our other members have said, that this thing is definitely on its way up and it's ready to go full throttle at any given time.
Maybe it already is doing.
It very well could be. I mean, this is as of the last 2.5 hours in terms of what I've got this running back to. If I run this back to about the last, let's see here. There you go. That runs it back to about the last 3.5 hours. And you can see the structure really coming together. Almost looked like we had a full eye wall all the way around, but it does look like that western side kind of fell apart.
It could only be temporary, though. We've got to watch out closely.
I'm thinking it is. I mean, it's got everything it needs. Great sea surface temperatures like we discussed last night, 29, 30 degrees Celsius. Look like the wind shear may be dropping ahead of it, so that's just going to give it all the more favorable conditions for it to really just take off.
That was noted on the Tropical Weather Bulletin earlier today that indeed the wind shear is dropping. The key thing when we're looking at this imagery right now, Tim, is that we don't know whether there is a clear eye underneath that developing. Visible imagery starting to show that that might well be the case, and if it is the case, those cloud tops are still pretty damn good if it had a clear eye right now.
Oh, absolutely. Just looking at the imagery you're showing, and I know you and Deborah were discussing, it does look like there are a couple spots in that southeastern quadrant where we might be seeing some minus 90 showing up.
It's more last night, but probably... there was a little bit in that southern band there, but not in the actual eye wall.
No, it's more along that southeastern band, but no. Not in the eye wall just yet, but cloud tops are really looking good, though. Those are at least easily minus 60.
Talk us through what you're showing us now.
What I've got is what all of us see when we watch one of the updates is the multi-model diagnostic comparison of some of the best models. Most of them are taking this up to easily Cat 2, possibly Cat 3. HWRF taking it right up to Cat 3. GFS having it right at 2. You can see the wind shear just to the right of it, and as we go further out into the 8th and 9th, where we could see a possible landfall on the northern edge of Taiwan, shear is going to drop really low, depending on which model you look at. HWRF is calling it for be less than 5 knots, and the sea surface temperatures are looking really good, 28, 29, almost 30 degrees Celsius in some spots, and the humidity, which is going to allow the cloud formation to really continue, is going to be really high. So it's got everything it needs to really take off. It's just a matter of not if, but when it's going to take off.
And I'm wondering if, these storms are rather large, especially Krosa, but that relative humidity being so high must be aiding it not only in its size, but in those big cloud tops that we're seeing in both storms. And this is another reason why it is a stage 8 on the CDPS, because we're looking at potentially over 600 millimeters of rain for parts of Taiwan.
Indeed, and I can pull up the information on Krosa. It's going to take me a minute, but I know before we were going live, I know Devin and I, we sat down and we crunched the numbers, and we actually both had to do a double check on the numbers because the potential tropical storm force wind radius is utterly insane for what Krosa could be forecast to bring to the Ogasawara Islands in about 4 or 5 days.
It is enormous. It makes Lekima, which is at the very least an average sized typhoon, look puny.
The funny thing is, though, is that they really have they're very similar in structure.
Yes.
I couldn't, when someone posted a 2 satellite loops earlier, I could not tell the difference between them. I mean, they are very similar in structure.
They do indeed look exactly the same, and the smaller one is the more intense one at the moment. When you're thinking about Krosa's maximum intensity, what are your thoughts? It would appear that there is some dry air coming in from the north, so that might impede its intensification, and I think JTWC are still going with just the Category 1 peak.
It does look like it's 75 knots 4 days out. But
4 days out.
Yeah, but it is the radius of the winds that's really alarming. I'm actually looking at the JTWC advisory, and these numbers are just insane. This is why I had Devin double check my numbers. At 120 hours out, we're talking tropical storm force winds possibly going out 500 nautical miles off the northeastern quadrant.
On the map, my goodness. The diameter of the storm is more than half the size of Japan. North to south, it's probably it probably is the size of the main Japanese islands.
And that wind field radius is why, like I said, I had Devin double check my numbers, and we both came to the same conclusion that Krosa, once it does reach the Ogasawara Islands, is going to be a stage 8 on the CDPS. Primarily due to the fact of how massive its wind field is going to be.
So there we are, and that is the latest on Krosa, which we're currently giving 65 miles an hour at our update and a pressure of 978. Lekima we're giving 85 miles an hour at the moment. The JTWC are expecting it to reach 100 knots, which is 115 miles an hour, category 3. And they are calling for a landfall, and they're calling for it to pass within 14 nautical miles of Taipei and 55 nautical miles from Shanghai at some point along the track. Of course, cones exist for a reason, even if JTWCs are enormous. It can go south or north of that forecast, more likely to go north, I would say, than south. But this is the point where we monitor very closely how these storms are moving against the forecast track. When we look towards the first 12 hours of the forecast, how far is it deviating from what they thought it would do? And just for the information of our team, if they want to go and have a look and maybe bring up some graphics, Sims do pretty good on that front, showing you the track overlay on the satellite imagery if you want to check that out. For the time being, well, let's go and take a look at some models with Tim, because that's exactly what he's doing right now. Tim.
Yes, thank you, Nathan. We'll start off with well, let me go to the one that's the bigger threat. That is Lekima. We'll go with the HWRF to start. Initializes it at 975 millibars. I think that's actually very close to what we have it at, if not just a little lower.
No, we have it now at 968.
Oh, okay, so it's a little bit lower than what the HWRF has initialized it at. But taking this out over the next few days, you guys can see 927, 929. This easily puts it within Category 3, Category 4 range. And as we do go out, it does look like it does go to the north of Taiwan and maybe makes a landfall in mainland China. And then actually looks like it stalls and turns away 4 days out. So the model guidance is by far definitely very different than what we were looking at yesterday. That's the HWRF. Take a look at the GFS over the same time frame. Back this up. And GFS and actually brings it down to 935, 936, and like the HWRF actually has it taking it north of Taiwan. But as you said, Nathan, the model guides can deviate to the north or south of it. But interesting to note that the GFS also has it making a little bit of a recurve to the north and probably skirting or making a direct landfall maybe over Shanghai before skirting around and actually going into mainland China.
Yeah, that is one of the more interesting model runs there. It sort of parallels the coast, a little bit of the part of China that sticks out a little bit there near Shanghai, and then inward in the East China Sea, which isn't really what typical storm tracks look like.
Right, and then taking a look at Krosa, which is the other one that we're keeping an eye on. And this is the one that's got me worried because, like I said, I had to double check my numbers on it, but this thing is going to be massive as we go further out. And it's going to catch, the way the current track is looking at, it's going to catch the Ogasawara Islands probably as a mid-category 2, maybe 3. And then, as Devin was talking last night, the big factor is going to be whether or not a steering ridge develops in and actually takes this up towards mainland Japan, or if it just keeps it out to sea. The HWRF there looks like it keeps it out to sea.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit different than what we were looking at last night, where the HWRF had it going towards mainland Japan, and then the GFS over the same time frame actually takes it a little bit lower, almost to a strong Cat 4 range, 939, 944. And then the GFS, where it was confirming a Honshu landfall, also has it just skirting away from the mainland of Japan, going out over 7 or 8 days. So just goes to show that the models can be very unpredictable. Both of these model guides, GFS and HWRF, both were calling for landfalls, one on Taiwan, the other on the mainland of Honshu in Japan. Now both of them are calling for a near miss on both respective islands.
I want to do a little visual representation now on another screen here. That, first of all, is that JTWC warning map. But now let's have a look again at this visible imagery right now, just getting an idea of the diameter of the cloud coverage from Lekima, first of all, which on its own is 813 miles wide if you take the clouds alone. That doesn't indicate tropical storm force winds, that is over a much smaller area. So now let's look at Krosa. How wide is that one? You could argue that the cloud coverage extends pretty much all the way to Yap. So let's start the point somewhere around there and all the way up. It's actually not that much bigger, but just over 1,000 miles at its most extreme point of diameter along there. So remarkable sizes.
And there has been an interesting question that one of the viewers has asked, and I'm willing to take a shot at this. One of them asking, due to the proximity of each other, we could see any kind of Fujiwara. I'm going to answer that honestly. The answer is going to be no. Lekima is set to go due west into mainland China, and Krosa is set to go almost due north into the Ogasawaras up towards Japan, so there's highly unlikely chance of any kind of Fujiwara interaction between these two systems.
Yeah, they're just too far apart, really. It's if they were closer, just a little bit closer, maybe they would be influencing each other, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's more so kind of in the tropical, kind of like the tropical ITCZ style kind of thing, except they're going to end up now curving up towards, curving up into towards China, Japan, and heading back east, being steered by that ridge of high pressure over the Western Pacific.
Now I'm trying to remind myself what these rain values meant, but you can see the black areas there denote a lot of rainfall per hour. I think it's in the order of about 60 millimeters per hour, the black areas, an immense amount in that.
That's what I was thinking, Nathan. It's 50 or 60 millimeters per hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So if that was over land, that would result in monumental rainfall totals if you were somewhere in that black area.
Kind of like Hurricane Harvey kind of deal, or Florence. In that,
I don't know,
but probably not to the extent of Harvey, but I'd say similar to the extent of Florence if it were over land.
In terms of the rainfall, you're looking at what Typhoon Francisco dumped over the Miyazaki and Oita prefectures last night, where we were seeing some values of 50 millimeters per hour. That's about what we're seeing off the real Earth imagery there that Nathan has, is those black dots representing 50 millimeters per hour.
So are those kind of like some of the rain cores? Would those be kind of considered be some of the rain cores in the systems, the two typhoons?
What's that again? Sorry?
I'm talking about like those spots where the rain is the heaviest. Would you consider those to be like rain cores?
Maybe, but it's not exact, because this is really it's going off satellites, so it's really in correspondence with where the highest cloud tops are, where we assume the most rain is falling.
Yeah, that's kind of where the rainfall, like we don't know, like we wouldn't know like exactly if it was the actual, like if it was like actually going to be that amount of rainfall. Would it be more the potential, right?
Yes, I'm just distracted here by people now asking whether these two storms are larger than Tip. Not
oh God,
no! No!
Tip
Nowhere close.
Another scale.
I would say like kind of the kind of conveyor belt motion of it is probably not even as big as Tip. The whole
Tip is probably twice the size of, almost twice the size of Krosa.
Yeah, if I remember, I think
Bear
the
that
cloud
one in
cover
mind.
was over 2,100 miles. I mean, Krosa is about half the size, so it is still very impressive, but no, it is nowhere near on the level of Tip. So let's just shelve that one now.
We are in the infancy of trying to adding wind radius data to the Force 13 database. Pretty soon we'll be able to tell you how rare it is for a storm to have a wind field as large as Krosa might get, which you're talking about a diameter of maybe a wind field diameter perhaps nearing 1,000 nautical miles. That's very significant. But how significant, well, remains to be seen. Only a handful have beaten 1,000 miles since the 70s, though. That's what we know so far.
Yeah, and just looking at the JTWC data, which I have on my screen, Nathan, just looking at the Day 4 and Day 5 advisories, some of the numbers are just really astounding. The northeastern quadrant, 500 miles. The southeast quadrant, 540. Southwest, 310. And the northwest pushing almost 370. So that 5-day advisory from the JTWC is just really screams this is going to be a monster.
So you're talking there, the largest diameter for Jovial Storm Force winds there is the 390 plus the 320, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be 710.
Going from northeast to southwest would be 590.
Yeah.
Northeast to southeast would be 800. I'm sorry.
Would it?
No, 610. I'm sorry, 610, and then you've got the gale force, 50 knot wind. So you're talking, 200, 610, about 810, and then nearly 1,000 miles going southeast to northwest. And then that's not even counting the typhoon force winds, which that could send out anywhere between 30 to 90 miles out. So,
whilst to go and look up some of that data, maybe someone else could talk about something right now.
I just want to add that I want to add something about typhoon tip, that usually it's extra tropical and large, like European windstorms that are kind of that size, and they're nowhere near as strong as what typhoon tip was. Like, think about some of the winter storms that we had earlier this year. Those were huge. Those were massive. Tropical cyclones normally don't get that big.
Right. And while Nathan is doing that research, still on my screen share, so we'll go back to the rapid scan for Typhoon Krosa. Looking at its structure, what do you guys think of it over the last 2.5, 3 hours?
I mean, it's really starting to look pretty good. This is Krosa here that you're showing, right? Just to make sure.
Sorry, it's Lekima. It's Lekima.
Oh, Lekima, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really starting to get its act together. Like trying to see those latest frames, see if there's anything new. Not really, but I do see, a little.
This takes
bit
it down
of
to the last 15 minutes there.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I
guess. Yeah.
Sorry, I do want to add that I was looking at the latest satellite imagery, and I'm seeing a little bit of a eye trying to pop out on Lekima. Little bit. Looks like it's starting to form a bit there.
Yeah, we'll take this back out to the last 90 minutes of imagery here, so you guys can actually have a better look. This is the last 90 minutes of imagery. Most recent frame coming in about 40 minutes ago. So this is just a little outdated by about 40 minutes, but still definitely illustrates just how well it's coming together. It is trying to close off that southern side, maybe even a little bit of a dry slot trying to come in on that southern side just a little bit, but it does look like it is starting to close that southern sector off.
We've got another view that we can show on the screen now as well, visible this morning so far, the rapid scan. There it is, showing how that has been progressing so far this morning. So the eye would appear to still be rather shallow in that image, and indeed in the higher resolution one there.
Yeah, it definitely does look like the eye is trying to pop out. The CDO is still pretty well got it obscured, though.
Work to do with that one. And again, moving over to Krosa there. I can't figure out what that one's up to right now. So a reminder that both of these storms are stage 8 on the CDPS scale.
Really? Wait, Krosa's stage 8?
Yes, both of them are potentially
catastrophic
wait a minute.
storms.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, though. Where are you getting Krosa from? Like a landfall in Japan, like a week out or something?
No, the numbers that I ran with, because I was the one that calculated it, and I had Devin double check it, is a direct landfall over Ogasawara at about 4.5 to 5 days out.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
And one of the viewers saying Krosa would have been a 9, and if the rainfall impact was a lot higher, it would be a 9, but right now, HWRF does have the rainfall impact anywhere between 8 and 16 inches. We ran with 16 inches as the max. If that rainfall impact does get higher, yes, it would be almost a stage 9 on the CDPS.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the JTWC cone here. Krosa is looking absolutely huge on the day 5 point.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really big storm, I can tell you that.
And those who are in Japan, you can see there on the chart the percentage chances for tropical storm force winds on those islands and indeed on the mainland. Tokyo just over 5% just there. Reminder that gale advisories are in effect for Okinawa now and for the southernmost Ryukyu Islands.
And looking at that graphic you had there, Nathan, Ogasawara now under an 80% chance of conditions in that area.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just cycling through some of those model runs now. So, there we go. Tim was about to show us Korean radar.
Yep, what's left of
How very resourceful of
Francisco.
him.
Well, when you have nothing to cover in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific is pretty much dead, you shift your resources to the Westpac, which is what I've done. But yeah, this is the radar out of Korea. You guys can see where what's left of Francisco has gone through most of South Korea. I believe landfall was near Busan late last night, and you guys can see how it has progressed. Some areas getting in excess of 40 to 50 millimeters per hour along the eastern prefectures of South Korea as it has progressed throughout today.
Is David on right now? David, are you here?
He is, but I believe he has himself muted at the moment.
Alright, well, I believe in just over an hour's time, the International Space Station will be passing over the 2 storms, or at least one of them. So that might also be interesting.
Yes.
And just taking a quick look at the Taiwan radar again, as some of these bands are well offshore now, not like they were last night where we were seeing some of these outflow bands from Lekima actually impacting the eastern prefectures of Taiwan. Still seeing some going through the Miyako Jima Islands as of the last few hours.
It's a very interesting band of thunderstorms that we're already seeing here. So it's kind of looks like it would be like the first round, the first band of would those be the outer bands of Lekima, if I'm not mistaken?
Well,
It would be, these would be some of the outflows, but I don't think it's the actual banding. It's just some of the outflow that's kind of spun off of it over the last day or two, and some of those outflows were what hit Yilan County and a couple other prefectures last night.
Alright, if anyone's got any questions for us whilst we're on the stream tonight, you can send us a message at any time on the chat section of our YouTube page and on our Facebook page as well. I believe David's back. Anyone on there, David?
Yes. Yes. we do have views there. I'll just
Sounds very distant.
Yes, he does.
sorry, just checking if there's any questions.
Alright, well let us know. But you can send in your questions whilst we're on the air. There is one just there. Is there any way forecasters can predict the size of a cyclone? Well, they're doing a pretty good job at the moment, it would seem. How would
I would
they
think
have
that it's
done it?
pretty easy.
How would they have
Because I
done it
don't
a
know
long
if-
time ago?
A long time ago. I think they didn't really do it a long time ago. They might have just had like points on like a, or they would tell by surface analysis how big the storm was by the amount of closed isobars. But when it comes to like, you know, predicting the storm size, probably like how deep it is or something, and then they can. I don't know. I really don't know.
So again, we're following these two storms right now. The main features, of course, there are other features out there. Two other invests. We've got the what's left of Flossie and Eric, which Eric is just about to move into the Western Pacific as well to
Just
join
as
the
a
party.
nothing.
Join the party as a total nothing. Let's go back to Tim's view of the full picture as you see it on the infrared channel, and again the difference in size between those two storms.
Indeed, and you can kind of
Nathan.
see all. Go ahead, David.
Sorry, Tim. Special welcome to those viewing the Facebook stream. We're simulcasting off the YouTube channel to those people viewing from the Philippines and Bangkok and other areas.
Bangkok.
That's in Thailand. Wait, is there someone from Bangkok? Oh, interesting.
Interesting to know
was it
about the Philippines.
Jagsco? What's not Jagsco, is it?
Jason? No.
No. But interesting to know about the Philippines there, David, is some of the outflow convection from Lekima is impacting northern Luzon at this hour off of the RAM MB imagery for Himawari 8. So you have Lekima, you have Krosa, which is starting to look a little bit better. You got what's left of Francisco up here, and we'll go to the end of the Himawari 8 disc. Looks like right there where my mouse is.
no.
Really hard to. It's really hard to see. That
We're
is
doing this again.
what's left of Flossie there, and you can see this is probably what's left of Eric there.
It definitely is, and I can show it on another angle here. Let's see if we can get it on the screen.
Go for it, Nathan.
It's a complete mess.
There's Eric. It's still alive. There it is. And then you've got Flossie, which is having a very bad hair day north of the Hawaiian Islands.
Actually, may actually be getting influenced by that trough that's getting ready to come through. That you can actually, you can actually see that trough there.
Both of them
your
are
image,
officially remnant lows, just to reiterate there.
It's
Yes.
impressive how it's still managing to maintain a vortex.
Indeed.
And then on the other side of Himawari 8 disc, we have, I believe this is 95 or 90,
95.
W. Thank you.
Oh no, sorry, B. I thought you were looking at the B one. 95
Oh,
B
no.
and 96 W.
Yeah, 96W just to the west of Lekima, and then 95B over here, which does look a little bit more organized than what it was last night. It's really kind of hard to see where the center is at. It does look like it is well offshore, but still bringing a
It's
lot
pretty
of
much-
convection to to eastern India.
Very close to the shore, actually, is in my knowledge, but very little in the way of rotation. And that can also be at least partially attributed, because I wasn't looking fully, and I can't vouch for whether it is fully attributed to the remnants of Jovial Storm Whiffer last week.
I couldn't verify that either. I'd actually have to go back and see its path to determine if any of that actually did.
I'll go do that for you now. It'll make us all feel better to know what the answer is.
All right. Well, while Nathan is doing that, if you guys do have any questions, you can hit us up at Force 13 and light up for us.
Just came in there. Who's looking at questions right now? You want to take them?
Yeah, I am. Fun Plus Smart asking, what's the Pegasa name for Lekima?
Tim's doing everything.
Hannah.
Yeah, the Pegasa name is Hannah. Someone commenting if Magic Eric Reader in the Westpac is a Typhoon. That is highly unlikely right now. Someone asking, should I avoid traveling to Miyako Shima? I'm not too familiar with my Japanese geography.
Miyako Jima, that is one of those islands that could get the full force of Lekima, if that's what they're talking about.
I believe so. I would say if you do plan on going to Miyakoshima, you might want to put that off, as this could be going in that general direction over the next 3 to 4 days. And again, another person asking, is there any chance that the 2 typhoons will make a Fujiwara? Absolutely not. Lekima is going west. Krosa is going north. No chance of Fujiwara. Not at all.
So I can now make the determination, just in case you were curious at home. 95B in the Indian Ocean is at least more than half attributable to Whiffer.
Yeah, I guess it's not really that much of a surprise, though, considering that that's just the general area that Whiffer track towards, right?
Yeah, whether there's enough strength of it to actually put it on the same track file as Whiffer or not is another matter.
No, probably not. My guess is no.
Yeah, my question about that is, what are the chances of the system in the Bay of Bengal forming or strengthening?
Very little by the looks of things.
Because it looks like it doesn't really have any room to strengthen.
30 knots, central pressure 990.
And we've got...
What happened to the remnant low that was Barbara? I can't remember, quite honestly.
What? It probably just died eventually. I don't know what happened.
You guys really want to know? Alright, I'll go find out what happened to Barbara.
No, not right now. Maybe after the stream.
Well, you can talk tropics whilst I go looking. I'm just I am the weather historian after all.
But your Super Cyclone challenge is coming, though.
Well, is it? We might be too busy doing live coverage.
Well, it is true, but...
We will go back while Nathan is... I guess he is going to be looking that up. We'll go back to some rapid scan.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Here. That's if rapid
I
scan
don't know why they wanted to know
me.
about Barbara, but I'll find out for you. No problem at all.
And it looks like rapid scan's not one to work for me at the moment. So we'll go back to the full disk imagery here.
So Barbara completely degenerated around July 13th. And it's indiscernible by the 14th at the latest, and oh, that's interesting. Okay, we'll come back to that. We're looking at that imagery right now. Any news, anything that's changed on that imagery, do you think?
It's really hard to say since the slider's not wanting to load right for me unless you've got some new imagery on your end, Nathan, or if anybody else has any
I can
imagery.
tell you that probably a fraction of Barbara's energy ended up in Danas. But very little So I hope that makes you feel better, whoever asked that question.
And we got somebody asking about flooding in the U.S. here in the D.C. and Baltimore area. That would probably be something that we would cover over on the U.S. channel. I know I have not had the chance to
Goodbye
really
then, Tim.
look at it. Oh no, I'm not leaving this channel.
If anyone in the US would like to join our budding US team, then you can send a message to contact@force13.com. We'll put you through the right channels. Same too, if you want to take part in our coverage in the future, we're always looking out for people to help us during this coverage. Especially during vacation season, which is right now, when most people are gone.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And also...
And you know what the tropics like to do when Nathan's on vacation?
The
We
less
all know.
said of that, better. But that trend broke last year, and it still hasn't unbroke. So I think we're in the clear.
We'll see.
Admittedly,
Yes.
I am away this Sunday, but these two typhoons should be mostly clear by then, and there probably won't be much behind it. At least models aren't picking up on anything else forming after these two typhoons.
Now, looking at the GFS from last night, it does not look like there was anything else expected to form. I'll actually take another look, see if it picks up on anything tonight. Okay, and there's our three systems we have. Francisco to the north, Lekima and Krosa both down there in the south respectively. Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see what the GFS does with both of them. Takes Lekima, looks like right almost near Shanghai as a Cat 2, maybe Cat 3. Krosa being what looks to be a definite monster as it gets up towards the Ogasawaras.
Yeah, and there it goes. It
pretty much
misses
hanging
the main
around
islands.
China there, and then maybe getting up into north central China. I think that might be up there around Beijing as we get about 6.5, 7 days. Actually, that's almost 8 days out. And then
passing
Krosa,
east of there by a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And then Krosa right now forecast to threaten the Japanese mainland, but not making landfall like it was forecast to last night. Getting out, let me see if I can get the HWRF. Oh,
Right.
no.
David, any news at your end?
No, the sea answered.
All right.
Very quiet.
Well, here we are again with the latest satellite imagery whilst Tim racks up that next model run. It would appear to me that there is, I would say, not rapid intensification occurring right now, is my hunch. Gradual intensification, however, would appear to be the order of the day. I just can't see that there would be a good clear eye underneath that, which is what we would need if it is rapid intensification. And as we switch back to the visible again, we look at it there, the eye is still rather shallow. Let's see if there's a new image. Yeah, that was a whole 30 minutes out of date. Let's go to a new one. And not much change really as we look at that 2 a.m. UTC image on the visible. What you do notice though is huge amounts of convection blowing out towards the southwest from the storm. Some of that reaching the far northeastern tip of Luzon, of which it is about 400 miles away from the center of the storm.
And we do have one viewer asking if these storms have strengthened in the last 3 hours. I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, ATCF has just updated Krosa, now showing 55 knots, 981 millibars.
Ooh, close
I
to what
believe.
we went
What?
with.
Yep. I believe.
Wait, what?
Yep, ATCF just updated it. Krosa 55 knots, 981.
Oh wow, they did. Interesting.
And
It was at 70.
Lekima, yeah, and Lekima, uh, still holding at 70 knots, 970 millibars. I believe both of these
That's
have.
an upgrade, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look back at the
I'm pretty sure it is.
previous runs.
And that is that I believe is that is a typical ATCF move with 80 miles an hour and 970 millibars corresponds entirely with the ATCF wind pressure relationship, so there hasn't been any human input into that one by the looks of things. But category 1, both in agreement on that. JMA, what are they saying about its intensity?
That's actually what I was looking at, Nathan. JMA has Lekima at 70 knots, 955. And Krosa
That's
at
low.
50 knots and 990 millibars.
That doesn't make any sense.
Maybe the JMA is just a little behind. This is also as
No, they're not. They update more
zero
often than
UTC.
JTWC do.
I don't know what to tell you, Nathan. That's what the JMA is showing. 50 knots, 990.
990 millibars, that's flat out wrong.
Nathan, I have a question from Nicholas up in the northeastern province of Thailand.
Okay.
Any chance 96W will jog west to give us much needed rain? Forecast models seem to show it going northeast. Nicholas,
Yes.
wondering, could it track to west?
It is going northwest, as you, I think, meant to say. It doesn't look to me as though anything that Thailand gets will be associated with 96W. It would appear to be more domestic rainfall that would appear to be occurring in the next 5 days, according to models. The GFS thinks that in the next 5 days in northeastern Thailand you will get somewhere in the region of, depending where exactly in the region, but between 20 at a minimum and about 80 millimeters of rain in the next 5 days. Western Thailand, the Malay Peninsula, the Indian Ocean coast, will get a substantial amount of rain in that same period of time, as will coastal areas of Cambodia and southern Vietnam as well. But none of that is anything to do with 96W. So hopefully that answers the question. The GFS thinks that Krosa will peak on Saturday.
So what's the timing for Lekima to make landfall in Taiwan, if it does?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was looking at something else there.
Yes. What is the estimated day of landfall for Lekima if it does manage to make landfall in Taiwan?
Yes, well, this would be on Friday, local time, during the daytime, afternoon, maybe evening on Friday. So we are still, of course, the effects will be felt long before a potential landfall, but we are still just over 2 days away from that scenario.
Looking at these two systems a little bit closer, Nathan, off of the Band 14 off Ram and B. It does look like that both systems are trying to get a little bit of an eye going. As if this work right. I actually noticed two spots. Let me see if I can just advance this forward just a little bit here, where it looks like maybe an eye is trying to form out of both systems or some eye-like structure. There is what might be some kind of central structure trying to form there on Krosa and right there on Lekima. However, if I do advance this a few more frames, it does look like what was trying to be an eye fell apart.
Maybe. That wouldn't be good news for the Storm, that's for sure.
No, and you can kind of see as I go back a few frames there.
If that's the case.
Yeah, you can see the last few frames there where it did look like it was trying to hollow itself out and clear it out, but it does look like it kind of fell apart there in the last few frames.
And we get a close-up on that image as well here. Once again, you can see exactly exactly what's happened there. We've been live for just over an hour covering these two storms, and they are both threats to land. Lekima is by far the largest threat. It's a stage 8 on the CDPS. So's Krosa, by the way, for the rather small Ogasawara Islands, but still inhabited. But the biggest threat, obviously, is Lekima over the next 2.5 days, as we've been seeing for Taiwan, which could receive over 600 millimeters of rain, as well as Category 3 force winds, and for China, which could also receive large amounts of rain near the east coast, and Shanghai could receive gale force winds. That is pretty much the long and short of things right now. A gale advisory remains in effect for parts of Japan. Okinawa southward is basically the essence of where the warnings are for Japanese islands. And a reiteration of that at the bottom of your screen there right now. We'll take some more questions. If there are any, send them in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. And we might get some more late estimates on how strong these storms actually are, according to our analysis, which we are always conducting.
Excuse me.
It's just the 4 of us right now. Myself, Sam, Tim and David in the driving seat on this Force 13 live event. We'll be running up to the end of this hour, and then we're going to make a decision whether to keep the automated streaming service running so that people can check in and see what the latest information is even when we're not on the air. If you think that's a good idea, then please let us know. It might tempt us to do it even more. We've got a few questions then. How large in miles is Krosa? Seems pretty large. Depends what metric you're really going by, whether you're talking about the cloud coverage or the wind field. I can't remember what it is on the wind field stakes right now. Tim, you might know. But if you look at the cloud cover, it's on the order of about 1,000 miles. Do we see Eric doing anything in the West Pacific? Is another question. The answer would appear to be no. So I'm sorry about that, Eric fans. It's not going to happen.
Not likely. What I was actually trying to find, and I did not have any luck in it, was trying to find a radar off the Mariana Islands where Krosa is sitting at to see just how intense it was looking on their radar, but I was not having any luck with that.
And I'm just looking right now. Eric, what's left of it, it is a remnant low, its area of influence is about 189 miles. So that means you could fit more than 5 of them inside Krosa. And I will demonstrate. There is a picture of what's left of Eric right now. And as we zoom out on the screen, you might end up seeing how small, how very small it is in relation to Krosa. Ah, there they are.
It's just a wisp
That's
of
great.
Cirrus almost.
I think you can fit more than 5 in that, actually.
Probably like 6 or 7 even. Maybe 8.
So there it is. We have at least one big Eric fan in the chat. But there they are, the 2 typhoons that dominate the scenery in the Western Pacific, and people suggesting that Krosa is now developing an eye. Well, there is that slot near the center, and Tim, you were talking about that just a few moments ago. And you're just looking at the wind field information there. Thank you for that. So its diameter is roughly 300 nautical miles. So
now going northeast to southeast.
that is pretty much a third of the cloud cover that you see on the image there. So if we were to measure 300 miles northwest to southeast.
Let's see here. I'm looking for the highest numbers here. See,
Basically,
northeast, southwest,
that amount of width
205
is where the tropical storm force winds are.
Actually, going northeast to southwest.
Yes.
425 miles.
425. We'll redraw that line. 425 miles northeast to southwest is about that much. Oh, it just went off again. Okay, well, you got the idea with that.
And yeah, JTWC running with 55 knots for their 3Z advisory.
Very wise indeed.
Now
You sounded shocked
forecasted-
though, Tim. You sounded shocked.
Well, between the JMA and JTWC, it's really a toss-up on really whose information is a little bit more accurate. I mean, the JTWC running with 55 knots. Let me look at what the JMA is running with right quick.
Whilst Tim does that, let's go through the satellite imagery.
Yeah, JMA still running with 50 knots on it.
Curious. That is 10 minutes sustained though.
Right. Which, if I remember my conversion, because a lot of people say there isn't a conversion, there's actually a paper out there from the World Meteorological Organization that does let you convert it over open water, which is where this is at, and I believe the conversion factor is 1.1, which would put it 1 minute sustained at about 55 knots. So the JTWC,
I think according to NOAA, it's 1.14, which is just short of what it is for miles per hour, knots to miles per hour, which is 1.15.
But even with that conversion, that's still right around 55 knots, which is what the JTWC is running with. So both agencies actually on the same page for a change.
Although, interestingly, I am now looking at information that suggests that... Oh no, just a minute. Nope, you'll want to disregard that. What is interesting, though, is that, at the very least, computer models, GFS in particular, I'm not sure about the others right now, is calling for this rapid intensification phase on Lekima. It's not a surprise at all if it is rapidly intensifying according to those models. Is it, though, is the big question right now. We don't really know the answer just yet. It's keeping us guessing.
Yeah, let me see what the new model guidance is here. And it's looking like now for Lekima, with the latest information, 3 models now taking it Category 3, both HWARF, GFS, and the JTWC all on board for a Category 3 intensity at about 18 Z on August 8th. So just a little over 2 days out.
So that would be about major hurricane status, right?
Yeah, Cat 3 would be major hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Still would be a very strong typhoon. Not quite high enough to reach super typhoon status, but if it rapidly intensifies any more than what it is, then we could be looking at super typhoon status, which I believe is at 120 knots, I believe.
I missed that part of what you were saying. I'll just assume that you were right.
But interesting to note that right around the time where we will be seeing the potential peak intensity, the shear is going to be dropping to less than 10 knots, and at 0Z, the GFS and HWARF taking it to just about 5 to 10 knots. So I would not want to rule out that we may see more than 100 knots out of this by the time we get into the afternoon of August 9th local time.
And that is just 2 days away, so anyone living in Taiwan certainly is the time to be preparing for this storm, especially further north, but you know, you can't be too lax anywhere on the island. Tropical storm chances are significant. Typhoon chances are increasing as well. Same too for those southernmost Japanese islands.
And taking a look at Krosa, looking like most models having it sit right about Category 2. HWARF the only one that might push it to Category 3 at about midnight Z on the 8th, but the rest of them aren't really on board with that. Shear is going to be dropping according to the CTCX, but that is a statistical model, so you can disregard that. GFS, though, looking at about 5 knots of shear going into the overnight, actually into the afternoon hours of August 8th, and you can see the track model guidance down there showing where this could end up going. So both storms very much dangerous in their own respect, with both of them now on stage 8 on the CDPS.
Indeed, they both are. You look at the model consensus there. Interesting, by the way, that JTWC taking a bit further west than what the models, those main models, are saying. But the general idea is set, and maybe a twist and a turn along the way too.
That, and it's interesting to notice that the JTWC also has it at a lower intensity than the other models. JTWC having it right at 70 knots, which is much lower than what the HWARF ships and GFS all have it at. Both of those other 3 models having it peaking at just about 90 knots, which would be right within Category 2 range.
And it's fascinating that such a large storm won't get particularly strong, we think.
It is interesting to know, and we were looking at it earlier off the JTWC, and I'll actually pull it back up so we can look at the 5-day metrics. And okay, it does look like they have backed off on some of the wind fields 5 days out. We were seeing some of these markers showing almost 380, 390 miles. It does look like they have backed off. Some of them still showing maybe 400 miles on the northeast. So you're looking, let's see here, northeast, southwest, 200, 400, about 700 miles of tropical storm force winds, where we were seeing almost 1,000 miles off the last advisory.
No, I don't think that's true. I think we were talking about a diameter of 610 last time, weren't we?
Yeah, that's right. I'm getting the
And now it's
Windfield and
down
Cloudfield.
to, yep. And now it's down to 560.
I'm still seeing just about 700 on the northeast to southwest.
580 then. It is, yes.
Yeah, give or take.
So yeah, fairly the same.
And we got one viewer noting that Lekima's eye is trying to clear again. We'll go back to the rapid scan here and see what we have going on with that. We'll actually do an update on it so we can get some new imagery in.
And we got a wonderful comment just there commending our work. Thank you so much. We're doing our very best here in what is actually quite difficult conditions for us right now. In the middle of vacation season, there's hardly anyone around to pick up this coverage, but we will be here. We will. I think what we have decided though is that we will be finishing up at the end of this hour. We just wanted to bring you some live coverage. We will probably run it again tomorrow at some point. Obviously we want to be around when everyone in Asia is around, so we've got to work around schedules all the time, and mine isn't looking very good for tomorrow, so we'll see where we get. It's likely that we'll be doing a live update late on tonight, as it is in East Asia, at approximately I would say, I'm trying to think right now on the spot, but it is important for people to know when we will be live next. I think we will be live with another update at 3 p.m. my time, which is 2 p.m. UTC, and I'm trying to still work it out here, and I'm completely drawing a blank.
And I believe that would translate to
about 11 p.m. I think.
11 p.m. Eastern or 10 p.m. East, 10 a.m. Eastern.
It would be 11 p.m. Japan Standard Time,
yeah.
10 p.m. Taiwan Standard Time.
And
I think
Eastern Time.
It better be. We just
Eastern
said it on
Time. I believe it would be 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m.
No.
Eastern Time.
No,
10
9 a.m.
No, I had it right the first time. I'm 4 hours behind UTC right now.
Tim's completely losing it right now. But that's hopefully when we'll be live next, sometime late evening local time in East Asia. Obviously, it's important that we keep running these updates, and then we'll be back with more coverage late in the evening my time, early in the morning, Thursday. In East Asia, we're getting this.
And what I have, and what I have circled off the rapid scan is some of the viewers saying that there could be an eye trying to clear out. If there is one trying to clear out, it is right there in where I have the yellow at. You can see.
I'm just not seeing it at the minute. It's not clearing. It's not clearing, guys.
Well, it's not clearing, but if there's one that's going to try to form, it is right in that general area.
Yeah, it's more visible on satellite imagery. Cool. It's more visible on satellite imagery.
Visible.
Okay, let's take a look at visible here. Let me see if I have visible on here.
Let's look at another angle whilst Tim's waiting for that and see what we can get here. Latest from the Himawari visible imagery as of 2:20 UTC. There it is once more. And let's load up that file again showing the progression on the rapid scan. 1 minute imagery, not 1 minute, 2.5 minute imagery on the Himawari 8 satellite. This is how it's been looking this morning, and you can see the blowing up of convection around the eye that occurred in those later frames in near real time there. And you can see how they were blowing up massively and how they were encircling the eye. So there it was again.
I mean, eye,
and again, you can see
I mean,
Krosa
eye
there.
is very shallow, but yeah, it's not really cleared out enough to really be really defined. I mean, the CDO is still well over the center of it, and Krosa. I don't even know what Krosa is doing now. I mean, it looks nowhere near like as good as it was an hour ago.
I don't know about that, actually. Krosa looks sort of the same that it did an hour ago.
Let me go back to full disk right quick and see what we've got for Krosa.
And this is an evolving situation as we continue to watch this morning.
That's if the slider wants to play nice for me. There we go. Maybe.
There we are.
Okay.
A few more minutes for questions if you want to send them in right now. David, are you with us? Missing in
No,
action?
I think he's back. Yep.
I do know how to get the visible satellite imagery up for slider. So I believe it's the product would in multispectral imagery geocolor visible.
Well, yeah,
imagery.
that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, because I was trying to point out that kind of that developing eye that we're seeing that I'm seeing in the center. It's not very obvious, but it's starting to kind of make itself known. In Lekima.
Yeah, and slider not one to play too nice on my end here, so we'll just go back to the geocolor.
And there it is once more. We are going to hang on for a little while tonight, just to see if we can get a pass from the International Space Station live. It's expected to happen in the next roughly 20 or 30 minutes. So we're going to stay on the air to see if we can get the International Space Station. David did report to us that there were difficulties with it recently, so we may well not get it, but we'll have to see.
Okay, there we go. Slider imagery for the last hour now off of and yeah, you can see maybe Krosa trying to wrap that western convection around and try to get maybe an eye going. And
Oh,
Lekima,
no.
if there is an eye under there, it's pretty well covered. I mean, you can't really see it on this imagery if there is one there. But it is interesting. Krosa does look, in terms of like
Right.
who's going to get the eye first, Krosa does look like it is just a little bit better.
What? Did you say Krosa's eye is better?
It's looking a little bit better. It's
And
looking just a little bit better defined. Not by much, though.
Oh, so not compared to Lekima then?
No.
I was gonna say. That's what I thought you. All right. Look. Let's change the view here. This is looking at Krosa right now, the center of the storm, and you can see that there is a flare-up that is beginning on the western side of this would-be eye. The northern side is looking fairly good still. The eastern side is the strongest. The southern side is where the massive gap is, but this is how eyes can form as well, and we could be seeing one in the making as we look at this imagery. It's not going to be a pretty one, at least not to begin with, but we could be about to see its formation too, and that would certainly cement typhoon status for Krosa. There's both of them on the screen once again. Let's see if we can bring it. Nope, we can't bring it back to Tim just yet.
Nah, not yet. I'm actually getting ready to look at Pegasus, see if they have anything up on their site for any impacts from Lekima.
Signal 1?
Yes, we do have Signal 1 warnings. Let me see if I can get the area that is for.
Of course, the Philippine name is Hannah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does not look like they're... It does not look like their websites want to load up.
I'm sure I'll get there quicker, Tim.
Yeah, you will.
Signal 1 warning in effect for the Batanas and the Babian group of islands. Not really a surprise there.
I believe those are the islands just to the north of Luzon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
And they could feasibly get tropical storm condition. I can't remember what the percentages are. They'll appear every so often on the left-hand side of your screen. But the Philippines, you know, it's not really a threat for them. Let's switch back now to Tim's imagery.
Yeah, just getting ready to update the Taiwan radar here for the last 6 hours here. Just to see what this banding from Lekima has been doing.
And we're just waiting a while here. We would have been going off the air now, but we're just waiting up a little longer to see whether we can get the International Space Station's view of one or both of these storms, which is expected hopefully in the next 20 minutes.
And the station is currently tracking up towards it, or them.
Indeed, it is David popping out of nowhere. Right
I
there,
apologise
once
for...
again. Do you have any Facebook questions that we could take right now?
No, unfortunately, my
Oh,
technical
they're all quiet.
issue resurfaced,
dear.
and I had to end the stream. And
That's no good.
well, I got 4 questions.
Well, if
Or
anyone
1 question.
wants to help us do Facebook streaming, that'd be much obliged as well. It is a community effort. What the work that we do, it is by us for us, and that's how it's always been.
Indeed, and we are always looking for new people to join our project. Not to steal your thunder, Nathan, but I know you've said it a couple times. Anybody that wishes to join us, we do have a link to the Discord server down in the description of the video, along with our other links to our outlets.
Absolutely. Or you could just send off an email, contact@force13.com. Our outlets. In the meantime, we're falling asleep waiting for the International Space Station to move. It is moving at about 17,000 miles per hour, but it's not fast enough for us right now.
And interesting to note, Nathan, looking at the Taiwan radar, it looks like we do have another band of convection now coming up on the Taiwan radar. It's still well out to sea, but you were mentioning the Signal 1 warnings for the islands just off the tip of Luzon. There's those islands there where we got the Signal 1 warnings at. And some of the Miyako, Jima islands over here that got raked with some of the thunderstorms earlier. It does look like another line is getting ready to go through the Yilan County province of Taiwan.
That band on the far eastern side of your image there is visible on the satellite. It is the area of thunderstorms to the west of the center of Lekima. Quite conspicuous as well, because there isn't much cloud cover in that direction.
And that does look like that is the western banding there that we're starting to see show up on Taiwan radar. Still well out to sea, but very interesting to see that the Taiwan radar is actually picking that up that far out.
Two scraggly bits of thunderstorms, really. Nothing particularly organized by the looks of things, but it could deliver squally weather. And I've never witnessed a hurricane or typhoon, which probably makes me the least qualified person on this project somehow. But I have witnessed a squall line that came in 2 days after Hurricane Earl died, when I was on location in Mexico, and it was worse than what the hurricane itself brought.
And I can vouch on that, going through Florence last year, that some of the outer bands of these tropical systems can actually be worse than the actual core of the storm in some instances.
Not that that's going to be the case this time, most likely.
Oh, absolutely not. No, the core of this storm is absolutely going to be the worst of the entire typhoon, considering what the models are calling for this to get up to.
To reiterate the information, it's a stage 8 on the CDPS scale right now, the Cyclone Destruction Potential scale, projecting stage 8 on that 10-tiered scale. Catastrophic damage is possible, with a large wind field that could extend near 500 miles in diameter, and rainfall which could reach 600 millimeters or higher in Taiwan, and the wind speed themselves, which could reach category 3 intensity on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and if it's intensifying the way it is right now, it could get stronger than that yet.
Yeah, we're looking at major status. We're very likely to see major status, quite possibly even if it continues to track towards Taiwan, there is a possibility of a Cat 3 landfall.
I wouldn't rule it out, as we're taking a look at the models again while we're waiting for the International Space Station. This is the GFS model, bringing the pressure down into the mid 930s, well within category 3, almost category 4 range, before it does start moving away from China. That is the GFS solution. Getting into the H-Wharf. And we'll back this up. The H-Wharf, also initializing it well deep, and actually takes it a lot deeper than the GFS, down to the low to mid 920s, well within category 4 range. And it's interesting to note that both the GFS and H-Wharf are now indicating that it is not going to make landfall on Taiwan.
Oh. Plot twist there.
Both of them actually have it moving north of Taiwan. However, the H-Wharf still is on board with a near landfall on mainland China, maybe moving further up China than what was initially anticipated.
And we should get updates. The 0Z model run should be coming out soon as well.
Yeah, let me actually refresh to see if the 0Z is out. No, this is still the 18Z.
Yeah, I think that will happen in about the next hour. Maybe 2 if we're not very lucky. We do have some live pictures from the International Space Station right now. There is an image. It isn't over any of the storms yet, but that's a good sign. David, weren't you having some issues with them recently?
Yeah, the high definition streaming channel currently off air. They don't know when it will resume, so we've only got one camera which is operational, and the quality's not very good. It's a little bit better than what it was 2 days ago, but it's coming up towards towards Indonesia, Malaysia, and it's tracking up towards Taiwan.
Yeah, still a little distance until it reaches those
Yes.
typhoons, but it does move very quickly, and before you know it, it will be upon them. And we'll check back with that shortly. Tim? Rainfall.
Yes, this is for Typhoon Lekima, and this is why we do have it as a stage 8 on the CDPS. Some areas of Taiwan forecast to get 16 to 24 inches. I'm not entirely sure if that 32-inch is over the mountainous areas of Taiwan or if that is just to the south of it.
Well, that'll be over the mountains.
Okay, so 32 inches over the mountains of Taiwan, and that is...
But really, you're looking at that maximum number down there. What's that, 68?
68.9175.
And you think that might be an outlandish number? Well, no. Taiwan is no stranger to huge dumps of rain that have happened in the past, and I can't rule this storm out from doing that at all, given how moist the environment is and the circumstances we find ourselves in with so much untapped energy so far in the Western Pacific this year. Could result in humongous amounts of rainfall. There's another one, 53 inches possible from Krosa at sea, admittedly. Can't make out any of the land areas on that somewhat poor resolution from our end, Tim. Can you?
Let me see if I can scroll that, make that just a little bit bigger. And where we were going with the stage 8 on is the fact that the CDPS is projecting a landfall on Ogasawara on August 11th, with 8 to 16 inches of rain being on the table for the Ogasawara Islands once it does make it through that area, combined with the large wind field and the winds. And again, I had our own Devin Williams, the founder of the CDPS, double-check the math on it, and he came to the same agreements I did when I ran the numbers, that you have real good confidence that this is a stage 8 on the CDPS. Almost surprised it's not stage 9, but if those higher rainfall amounts do move further north into the Ogasawara Island area, we could be looking at a stage 9 for sure.
Alright, we're just waiting for what we stayed up for, the International Space Station, which might or might not pass over the storm. Hopefully, if it does, we'll be able to show you. Let's now take a look and see if there's any new satellite imagery that we can show you.
Indeed, and we do have a couple questions. Our own Ethan
Okay.
asking if we think Lekima will reach Category 4 intensity.
We every so often on the bottom of the screen, the percentage chances go by. I think we put it at 25%, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And that
1 in
information,
4.
yep, we'll be going across the screen here shortly.
Yeah, don't wait for it. You'll be waiting a while.
Right, we have
There'll be a lot of
so
dead
much
air.
information. Yeah, we have a lot of information packed in on the screen for you guys. Obviously, the CDPS and current stats on the left side of the screen.
You just can't ever underestimate these storms and how fast they can intensify, though.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see here. Getting back to some imagery here while we wait on the International Space Station. Let's see what the
All right.
rapid scan
Over to
has
you.
on Lekima here. And we'll take this out to the last hour and 15 minutes. And Nathan, I know you're going to be telling me no, but
Hey, this can't be good.
it does look like it is trying to make another run at an eye. Looks like it may be trying to form.
Yes,
right.
it may well be. The visible imagery looks like the eye's getting clearer in the last 10-20 minutes. So, but it's really touch and go at the minute. What I can tell you is that Krosa really is wrapping the clouds around its soon-to-be eye by the looks of things. So that could be a typhoon by the time people in America wake up tomorrow morning.
We'll take a look at the full disc
Evening
imagery.
local time.
Obviously, got Lekima on the left, Krosa on the right there. And we'll see if...
Don't want to miss the International Space Station. I'm not sure what we're looking at the moment. A bunch of clouds. Doesn't look like the typhoon. We may well miss it. I can't guarantee that we'll get to see the storm on this imagery, but we'll do our best and we'll see what it comes up with. But there's the view from the International Space Station right now. Tim?
Indeed, and going back to the slider imagery, I will wait for the International Space Station to come across if we do get a good view of it. And again, as you were saying, Nathan, there is Krosa on the right, and it does look like it is trying to wrap some convection around to where what might be an eye, and it's really hard to pinpoint down where that eye is actually at now. It was showing up really good about 20 minutes ago. It's not looking that impressive now.
A question coming in there about analogs for Lekima, track and intensity wise.
Now, remember last night you were saying that the model guidance was looking almost similar to Typhoon Maria. I'm not sure if that analog is still verifying out.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I get that analogy.
In terms of the track you did, but I'm not entirely certain on the intensity that you did.
Of course, Maria reached Category 5 before striking Taiwan and China as a Category 3, weakening to a 2. Lekima doesn't have as much time as Maria did. It could still get to that intensity that Maria was striking at, Category 2/3 obviously. Given that it's already got that size advantage, it probably won't be very much that it won't get to Category 5 status beforehand, so I think it still could be a decent analog Maria. And we track that one live as well here on the channel.
And a few people asking about this other invest over here. Yes, that is 96W, what a little bit there is of it.
Well, you're circling the convection that's far removed from the actual center. The center is
right
east of your circle. If you switch to the visible, you'll see it, the center of circulation. It does have one.
And there's the good geo color. As it does look like the sun is starting to come up over the West Pacific now, so we can get some really good views.
It's been up for a while.
Yeah, you are right, Nathan. The center is well to the east of the convection. It's well over here, and the convection is well to the southwest of it there.
GFS briefly has it going into Luzon and dying.
That's what the model guidance was looking at last night, was to cross Luzon, maybe die off, and then the remnants of it getting absorbed into Lekima. And we'll actually go with a little bit wider view in case people are wondering where is Francisco. It's still being picked up, but it's right up there. Now looking like it's over North Korea. Still somewhat discernible there.
Anytime now, the International Space Station will be passing close to Typhoon Lekima. Again, I can't guarantee that we'll see anything on this single image that we have here. Fingers crossed, I'm not sure. But we'll just wait and see if anything pops up on the horizon there as we go along. And after that, we'll be going off the air tonight, and we will return at about 10 p.m. Was that Japan time?
You were saying what?
10 p.m. That's 11 o'clock my time.
Nope, we're going live
tonight.
We will likely go live again at 11 p.m. Japan time. And that's what, 10 p.m. China time? Or 10 p.m. in China and Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
That
About
is the
midnight.
likely time
Hey,
of our next live update, or if things aren't going as urgently as we expect them to be, we might just do a recorded update at that time, and obviously everyone will know about that too. I'm still not really sure what we're looking at on this imagery right now. It is the International Space Station looking down on something. I'm getting a sneaking suspicion that it will have completely missed Typhoon Lekima.
Yeah, it's tracking over Taiwan now.
So are
Okay,
we
so-
looking at the coast of Taiwan there? Oh, can't work it out. Well,
Taiwan
yes, it's
would
looking
be
west, isn't it?
on the
Yes.
left-hand side.
Taiwan will be closest to the camera because it's moving
Yes.
northeast. So yeah, we won't be able to see the storm then in that case.
It's a shocking
Bummer.
angle.
Bummer.
Yes, it is a bummer.
Well, there you go. I think we're looking at the coast of China there, might be.
But the quality, the colour. Oh,
Well, we have been treated by some beautiful images in the last 19 years
Yes.
of the International Space
it's
Station.
very, very true.
Yes.
And from the International Space Station, I believe one of the Soyuz departed after, I think it was 3 months, after delivering a very heavy payload of equipment to the station. So hopefully tomorrow we might be able to show or capture.
Well,
I had to
I'm
put
sure,
it that way,
I'm sure
Nathan.
you'll
I
be
had to.
staying up for its next pass in an hour and a half that you might get to see more
Yes.
on.
Yeah, it looks like it did miss.
That's quite apparent, Tim. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. It was looking west. It's looking the wrong way. Nothing we can
looking
do
west-
about that.
Looking west, we may get a shot of what's left of Francisco as it does move up
Really?
towards that general direction if it's moving northeast.
I don't know, but we're finishing our live stream. We're finishing up here at Force 13 HQ. It's been great running this stream tonight once again. Thanks everyone for tuning in, taking part, engaging. It makes the show. It makes our coverage as good as it is. And we would be even more wooden than we are if not for your help. We need more of it.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
We'll have more updates on the channel in the meantime. This was Force 13 Live. We'll be back with some form of update, as I've mentioned a few times, at 11 p.m. Japan, 10 p.m. China and Taiwan tonight, this Wednesday, August 7th. But for now, that is it from here at Force 13 HQ in Typhoon Alley. We'll see you again later on. Good night.
Bye.
See you all.